I used to believe I had to ask, to wait for the perfect sign, to make sure everything was safe, comfortable, predictable. I thought intimacy was something that needed her verbal permission, her nod, her clear approval before I could move. I thought that was respect. And for years, I lived under that illusion, holding back, second-guessing myself, waiting for words that never came. But then I noticed something unsettling. The more I asked, the colder the moments became. The more I tried to earn intimacy through polite questions and careful hesitation, the faster desire seemed to vanish from her eyes. What I thought was respect was actually the slow death of attraction. It wasn't until I stumbled into a new truth, one that felt almost dangerous at first, that everything changed. Intimacy is never asked for, it is created. I realized women don't melt when you seek permission. They surrender when they feel something undeniable, something inevitable in your presence. Not pressure, not begging, just gravity. A quiet pull that doesn't demand, but simply exists. That realization shook me. I stopped seeing intimacy as a negotiation and began to see it as a moment I could build, not with words of request, but with presence, energy, and a stillness that invited her to lean in. And once I lived this shift, I never looked back. Because the day I stopped asking was the day I stopped losing power. For a long time, I thought desire was something I could unlock with the right words. A carefully placed compliment, a polite request, a gentle question. Can I kiss you? Or is this okay? I believed that asking showed respect. But in reality, every time I asked, I could feel the energy collapse. Her eyes would flicker out of the moment, her body would stiffen, and suddenly we were back in our heads, two people analyzing, not two souls connecting. That's when I realized, asking kills desire. It doesn't matter how genuine the intention is. The moment you frame intimacy as a request, you shift her from feeling into thinking, and passion doesn't live in logic. The change happened when I stopped begging with words and started leading with presence. I learned to let my energy speak first, to let silence carry the weight, to let my calmness hold the space between us. I stopped seeking approval and instead became grounded in the confidence that intimacy is something created, not negotiated. The difference was night and day. Before, I was hesitant, insecure, overthinking every move. I looked for her reaction like a student waiting for a teacher's grade. But once I stepped into leadership, I felt different, calm, intentional, deliberate. I no longer needed her yes because I knew my presence was already awakening it. It wasn't about being aggressive or manipulative. It was about being steady enough that she felt safe letting go. And when a woman feels safe, she doesn't need to be convinced. She chooses willingly, breathlessly. If you've ever felt the same confusion, wondering why asking never works, why being nice never sparks fire, that's exactly why I share these lessons here on Stoic Advice for Men. Because I know the frustration, and I also know the freedom that comes when you learn to lead instead of ask. I discovered something that changed everything. It's not my hands that speak first, but the energy I carry. Long before a single touch, long before lips meet or skin connects, there's a current that flows between two people. And if that current is weak, no words can fix it. But if it's strong, words become almost unnecessary. I began experimenting with presence, holding her gaze just one heartbeat longer than necessary, lowering my voice, not to sound seductive, but to slow her thoughts down, to quiet the noise in her head. I noticed how the space between us carried more weight than any line I could ever rehearse. That space became charged, not with pressure, but with inevitability. This was the turning point. Before, I had tried to use logic. I thought attraction could be explained, reasoned into existence, proven like an argument. But the truth is, logic forces her to analyze. And the moment she's analyzing, the moment she's asking herself questions like, should I? What happens if I do? Desire fades. Passion doesn't live in that place. What ignites her is emotion, the unspoken. the tension she feels without being able to define it. When my energy said, "I'm here," calm, steady, unshaken, she leaned closer without knowing why. When my silence lingered, she filled it with her curiosity. And when my presence grew heavier, she mirrored it with her breath, her movements, her surrender. That was when I realized women don't say yes with words. They say yes with how they feel. The yes is written in her body language, in the way her eyes soften, in the way she unconsciously leans toward you. The yes happens long before the moment of touch. And once I understood that truth, I stopped talking so much. I started listening to the silence, letting my presence carry the conversation. And it worked effortlessly. When I stopped trying to convince, she stopped resisting. The moment I let go of persuasion, something unexpected happened. She leaned in on her own. She laughed first, she touched me first. She even crossed lines I hadn't yet suggested. And in her mind, it was all her idea. That was when I understood the deepest secret of intimacy. She doesn't want to be convinced. She wants to feel like she chose it. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding how her psychology works. A woman doesn't surrender to pressure, she surrenders to permission. She wants to believe that her desire took over, that she lost control in the most natural way. Not because I pushed her, but because she couldn't help herself. That illusion of control is everything. So I learned to speak differently. Instead of direct questions, I left unfinished thoughts. Instead of pushing for answers, I created space for silence. My words became breadcrumbs, scattered lightly, tempting her curiosity to follow. I wouldn't say, "Come over," I'd say, "I was planning to spend tonight alone." Unless something changes, I wouldn't say, "I want you." I'd say, "You're distracting as hell." Those words left her wondering, filling the gaps with her own desire. The magic was in suggestion, not demand. In creating a frame heavy with possibility and letting her imagination do the rest. When she felt like she was moving closer by her own will, the surrender was real. And it lasted. These are the subtleties most men miss. They keep asking, convincing, begging, and then wonder why the spark dies. But the men who understand how to create space instead of pressure, who know how to lead without force, never have to beg. That's why I keep sharing these lessons with this brotherhood on Stoic advice for men, so you don't. Because once you taste this shift, you'll never go back. You'll see that real intimacy doesn't come from asking. It comes from allowing her to believe it was her idea all along. I learned that hesitation kills trust. Every time I second-guessed myself, every time I paused to wonder if I should move forward, I could see the light fade from her eyes. It wasn't rejection, it was disappointment. Because in that moment, she felt the weight of responsibility shift onto her. And the truth is, she never wanted to carry it. But when I held the frame calm, slow, certain, everything shifted. I stopped asking if I was doing the right thing. I stopped rushing to fill silence. Instead, I became anchored, grounded, unshaken. My presence told her everything she needed to know. I've got this. That's what Stoic masculine presence is, not arrogance, not aggression, just the unmovable steadiness that allows her feminine energy to flow freely. I didn't need to react to every signal or chase every opportunity. I simply held the space like a container and let her chaos pour into it. She didn't need me to dance with her storm, she needed me to be the rock to her ocean. And the more I embodied that stillness, the more she leaned in, the more she trusted, the more she surrendered. Because she realized she didn't have to lead anymore. She could finally exhale. She could stop calculating and simply feel. It's not about perfection. It's not about memorizing lines or playing games. It's about becoming so centered in who I am that her uncertainty doesn't shake me. Her hesitation doesn't scare me. Her emotions don't throw me off balance. That steadiness is what she craves most. And in that stillness, I saw something rare. She relaxed, she trusted, she surrendered. The more I paid attention, the more I realized women weren't craving a checklist of actions. It wasn't about the perfect line, the right timing, or the flawless touch. What they wanted, what they were starving for, was relief. Relief from always having to lead, from always being on guard, from carrying the weight of control. I remember one moment vividly. She leaned in, her laughter softer than before, her rhythm slowing until it matched mine. She mirrored my pace without thinking about it. And in that instant, I understood it wasn't about pleasure. It was about peace. For the first time, she didn't have to perform or calculate. She could simply let go. That's the gift a man gives when he's grounded in himself. When his presence is calm, steady, unshaken, it becomes a refuge. She doesn't need to be dazzled by tricks or overwhelmed by effort. She just needs to feel that she can rest, that her storm has finally met something strong enough to hold it. Stoicism taught me this truth. Peace is more powerful than pressure. Desire isn't born from chaos. It's born from the safety of stillness. And when I embodied that stillness, women responded not with logic, but with instinct. They opened, they softened, they trusted, because they felt something rare in this world, the freedom to stop leading. When she leaned in with that softer laughter, when she mirrored my breath and my silence, I knew I had given her something better than performance. I had given her peace. And that, more than anything, is what women truly crave. Looking back, I see the difference as clearly as night and day. When I used to ask, I lost her. When I tried to convince, I pushed her away. Asking placed me beneath her, waiting for approval, hoping for permission. It drained the spark before it could even ignite. But when I learned to create, everything transformed. I no longer begged with words, I led with presence. I no longer rushed to prove myself, I slowed down and let the moment breathe. I no longer treated intimacy as a favor to be granted. I treated it as something born naturally from the gravity between us. That's the shift. Asking is need, creating is power. Asking kills the moment, creating awakens it. I don't chase. I don't ask, I lead, and because I lead, she follows. Not out of pressure, not out of obligation, but out of desire. Because she feels safe enough to surrender and strong enough to believe it was her choice all along. This is the essence of what I've learned. Real intimacy is never negotiated, it's created. And the man who understands this will never again feel powerless in the presence of a woman. He will stand steady, calm, unshaken, and she will respond not with logic, but with instinct. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to embody that calm, unshakable presence, subscribe to Stoic Advice for Men. This is where we reclaim our power, not through noise, but through stillness. Because true strength isn't found in asking, it's found in becoming the man who never has to.